and welcome to TEDxTufts. That's me. And I'm here today to talk to you about American higher education. Some say it's the marvel of the world, and maybe so. But what if I told you that the classroom experience for most undergraduates today is fundamentally the same as it was 40 years ago? Sad but true. We need a reboot of the system. What if learning was shared? What if teachers became partners with their students? What if students became teachers? Implementing these changes means putting students first and taking very seriously the intellectual and emotional complexities of being an undergraduate. Let's listen in on a brief conversation. I don't belong here. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't you just ace your psych exam? Yeah, I did. And didn't you just get the lead in that play? I know, but what if I screw it up? How many of you have ever felt this way? Raise your hands. I can't see you anymore, but raise your hands. You're not alone. Psychologists call this the imposter syndrome. And they've discovered that a high percentage of high achievers, including many college students, feel like their accomplishments are fake, accidents, illusions, and that at any moment they're going to be exposed as frauds. How do we deal with such difficult emotions? How can we change the equation? Teachers hold the key. I know firsthand the lasting effect that teachers can have. As an undergraduate, I was the poster boy for the imposter syndrome. I had a wide circle of friends, I did very well academically, and my constant companion was a nagging fear that the next paper, the next test, the next short story would be the one that blew the whole thing up. I couldn't admit it then, but my teachers failed me. I needed mentors who take the time to get to know me, to figure out what made me tick. What I got were people who saw me as a commodity, a product, a feather in their cap, a trophy with a high GPA. Thankfully, I did have one mentor. No, it wasn't one of my official teachers. He was a family friend, and he taught at a junior college. His name was Rene. Rene saw something in me, and he acted on that insight. If my life was a movie, the critics would call what happened next foreshadowing, a harbinger of things to come. A week after I graduated, I got a phone call. You remember phones, those things that, had these long wires and kind of got in the way, and it was very weird, before the iPhone. Hello? Hey, Howard, it's Rene. Rene, how you doing? Howard, how'd you like to take over my classes this summer? I was floored. What made him think I could pull that off? Rene, you're kidding, right? I just got out of school. What do I know about teaching? And besides, what's your dean going to say? Howard, I am the dean. Rene wouldn't take no for an answer. He told me he'd known me a long time and that I had the right stuff. So off I went, suitcase in hand, full of anticipation and anxiety, to teach 4 courses, 100 people, my own age and older, all of whom were expecting Rene. On the first day, I got mistaken for a member of the class. I always wore a tie after that. On the second day, I learned that if it's your name on the syllabus, they think you know something and you'd better deliver. From there, the lessons came fast and furious. I learned that winging it never works. I learned that if I was passionate about a subject, then the class got into it too. I learned that if I lectured less and instead got them involved in activities, they learned more, and it stuck. I dealt with my first case of plagiarism. Now there's something that'll grow you up in a hurry. And I began to think that maybe Rene was right. I could do this. Rene planted the seed that became my concept of the student-first way. As I went on to grad school and began my career in the groves of academe, I made a promise to myself. I would never do to my students what my teachers had done to me. Like Rene, I would open doors, not close them. Fast forward 10 years. I've just been hired by Tufts University to help run something called the Experimental College, a unit whose mandate was and continues to be pushing the educational envelope. Fate was writing the second act of my movie, because believe it or not, a big part of my new job was working with students who were teaching credit-bearing courses to their peers. During my interview for the job, I remember thinking, who does this? And then as the interview went along, thinking, more power to them. And then, who does this became me. So there I was, a couple of months into the job, sitting at my desk, buried in paperwork. The sun streaming in through a window across the hall. It was an eclipse. No, it was a rather large student standing there. His arm was in a sling, and with the other one, he thrust out his hand and smiled. Hey, I'm Bruce, and I want to teach a course. I looked at him. In my head, I said, this isn't going to work. He's just another jock with a monster ego. You're a football player, right? How'd you know? I've seen you play. You're good, but you keep getting hurt. Bruce gives me a dirty look. Season's over for me. Do I still have time to put in a course proposal before the deadline? What are you interested in teaching? The voice in my head cackles, 10-1, it's sports and society. Commodities and futures. What? Commodities and futures. You know, like in Chicago, the Mercantile Exchange? I spent 2 summers in the pit. Really? Bruce went on to teach a marvelous course. In fact, he taught it as an undergraduate and when he graduated. And I learned a bunch of new lessons. I learned to be very aware of my tendencies towards stereotyping. And I learned that I had to become a much better listener and not jump to conclusions. And I learned to never, ever underestimate my students. Over time, it's become quite clear that if I really do listen to my students, really do talk with them about their fears and aspirations, and sincerely convey to them that I believe they've got the right stuff, then something in them changes. The imposter recedes. The risk-taker emerges. This is where higher education needs to go. This is the student-first way. We need to become a breeding ground for risk-takers, for those who not only want to shape their own education, but who, like Bruce, wanted to push the envelope to the max and shape the education of their peers. Think about it. Teaching a course while being a student. What a way to cap your college career, to see what you're made of. But are you up for the challenge? It's beyond anything you've ever done before. It's kind of like this. Imagine your parents have season tickets to the Patriots, and you've gone to every game since you were a little kid. One lovely Sunday, you're up there in the stands, having a great time, sipping on a beer. All of a sudden, Bill Belichick comes running up, puts his arm around you, says, "Kid, you're going in for Brady." And like being an NFL quarterback, teaching your peers has a high risk-reward ratio. No one, and believe me, I mean no one, wants to lose the respect of their students. It's the stuff of nightmares, trust me. So you push yourself hard. You get better organized by the day. You spend hours agonizing over how to make each class meeting valuable. You become an ace troubleshooter, putting out all the emotional brush fires your students throw your way. Your growth as an educator and as an individual happens faster and goes deeper than you ever thought possible. You become the Tom Brady of your class. But there's more to it. At the end of every semester, my peer teachers and I debrief. A session from a few years back will stay with me forever. Samantha said that she developed a new appreciation for her teachers. Thank you, Samantha. Sophie added that she'd learned more about her subject than she would have ever had otherwise. And then there was Rob. Rob happened to be from Texas. Howard, this is the best thing I've ever done in 4 years here. Thank you for hanging in there with me. He stops for a moment and clears his throat. But Howard, the most important thing I learned was that I never want to teach again. After the laughter died down, Rob looked at me and began to apologize. I cut him off. I told him he had nothing to feel sorry for. He'd gone all in on teaching, and in return, he'd learned a very important lesson about himself. Who could ask for more? The majority of our alums don't go into education. They're spread out all across the professions. Whether it's medicine or law or high tech or media like Rob or politics or business, I hear the same thing. Peer teaching prepared me to succeed. To me, that says it all. Peer teaching prepared me to succeed. And so, my friends, let me end by saying, it's time for higher education to finally meet the future. It's time for us to focus less on information-based learning and focus more on skills, on the core competencies necessary for success in the 21st century. The ability to think outside the box, to write and speak incisively, to make your own media, and to come up with creative and amazing things using digital tools that haven't even been invented yet. It's time to unlock the potential of faculty partners and peer teachers, mentors, and risk takers. The next generation of Robs and Bruces and Renees. It's time for the student-first way. Thank you very much.